we'll give this a shot real quick. Let's see here, restream. Here, 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 and go. And comma key to get rid of lightbox. Drag it out. Where did we leave off? We got a face. Subtool. Turn everything on. Scroll down. There we go. Something like this. So let's go ahead and I'm going to put Skin Shader 4. Oh, we're still 2 out of 3. Okay, we'll try this one more time, Facebook. And if this doesn't work... Oh, sending data. Then I'm not sure. Confirm. Close. Load it up. Okay, like I was saying, we're going to select all these, and we want a single material to be put onto the skin, and that's going to be Skin Shader 4. Just while we're working, we could actually do our render inside of Zbrush. In fact, let me go ahead and pull up Photoshop, and I'll show you what I did yesterday after I logged out. So let's go ahead and load up streaming. Oh, that's just my thumbnail here. Well, sorry, Facebook. I won't be getting any of your chat, it seems like, but I gave it a shot. It's the best I can do with Restream right now. Guess I can toggle that on. Yeah, well. Okay, so BPR composite, that's what I'm looking for. So we went through and we did our renders, the usual where we go through and we have this, and and we move these things out. And then we assigned metal in here, and then we went to, actually, you know what, I do have this file now that I think about it. Let's go File, Open, and let's grab this one. This document size is going to be huge, but we can fix that. So you guys won't be able to see all this. Okay, yeah, that's good enough. So basically my document, you know what, we can do this. Let's say document W size, hit new, and I'll go ahead and resize my document to just fill in this area here, because I was doing much larger renders. So this is my clown render, and essentially you go over here to your flat color, and then under your render settings, and you would do this for all of your materials. Just go through, and you can actually, if you go in here to Z plugin, you can go in here to Subtool Master, Fill, and you can tell it to fill with a color and a material, and it'll go through any visible subtool that you have and fill it, or you can just do color. So if you want to keep these colors and then just use this as a clown pass, just make sure when you're rendering that you go over here and you say, I guess in this case it may not matter, but under render properties you can turn off, it'll make it go faster, ambient occlusion shadows, turn it off, and then hit BPR, and that'll go ahead and give you a nice clean clown pass, quote unquote. So you can go through here and you can make selections. So if I want to use these, I can hit W, you can select by color range, or you can go, I want to select all my skin, or all my eyeballs, or my skull, or all my teeth. You can very quickly do that, and then you can go down here and you can start making adjustments, which is what I did. So here's the original, oops. Here's the original render out of Zbrush, and then I just went through and just kind of made adjustments based on what each individual, what I wanted each individual material type to look like, and then I threw a little bit more AO on it, and then I put in a slight lighting pass and a little heavier lighting pass over here, and then I warmed that lighting pass up a little bit, and then zoom in. There we go. And then this was another little lighting pass on the right hand side. And then these are just painting in a little bit of subsurface scattering. You can do a subsurface scattering pass in ZBrush, but this was just faster and easier. And then I think I did a little bit of depth blur. Yeah, you can see how it kind of blurs as it gets further away from the focal point right here. And then there's just a gray render. So, and then that we took into here and we just basically did turn all this off. So here's my little gray version. Did a little levels on the whole thing, and then I put this guy in here. Did a little levels to make that pop, because remember when you're doing thumbnails, you can be seeing it from like right here. And then we put a little color gradient on here with a soft light, just to kind of knock that back a little bit, make it a little bit more interesting, and a little bit more contrasty with the skin. And then put a little vignette there, and then threw some text over it. So, hooray. Yeah, let me close all this out, sorry. And again, yeah, Facebook still, I'm not going to get any comments from Facebook, but again, I apologize for that. Hey everybody, yeah, let's do some more Westworld today. Let's see, hello the Grubber. So we got this, and we'll go ahead and, we'll keep Photoshop open just in case. So this is my marketing render here. So if we go back to our set of material, or if we turn on polyframe, everything wasn't colored because I went ahead and filled these things in. But let's go ahead and open up our working file here. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to close out of that. And we're going to launch Zbrush again. And I'm going to get some coffee. Okay. So I'm going to hit the comma key, get rid of Lightbox, Control N. Actually, now that I think about that, if you go in here to Preferences, Lightbox, you can click off Open at Launch, and then under Config, you can do Store Config. If you always know, like I moved the Lightbox button out of here, I think you guys might still have it. And then also you can just hit the comma key to get it. So easy enough. And then we'll go in here to Load Tool, and then this is where I'm going to have my streaming latest mechanical skulls when we started doing this one. And we can just continue moving forward with this. Finish this thing out. So we have our skin here, and this is where, going back to the beginning here, we have all our poly paints. Now this one, I don't think it has any materials assigned, if I'm not mistaken. So if I change this to like shiny, everything inherits shiny. I know the skin, I'm probably always going to want skin shader 4 on it. So let's go ahead and just say, I'm going to turn on Skin Shader 4, and I believe if we hold down Shift, turn the eyeballs off, turn the eyeballs back on, that's going to turn everything back on, and then we're just going to hide everything we don't want Skin Shader 4 associated with. And then with just the skin pieces available, or visible, let's see if this will work. Like we were saying before with Z plugin, Subtool Master. You can go in here and you can say fill material. There we go. So now when I go through here and I change this matte cap or chalk or shiny, it's not going to inherit any material because we've assigned that. And in fact, you know what? There's one more I would want to do, and that's probably going to be the teeth. So if I want to select a material, I can just click and drag from the material onto the body and then color, fill object. And then, you know what? For the teeth, let's dumb that down just a little bit. mRGB, color, fill object. There we go. It's a little bit yellow. There we go. Fill object. Alrighty. The eyeballs here, we did kind of a darker bluish gray. Yeah, actually, we can go fairly dark with that. Now let's switch this over to our toy plastic, and then we'll go to color, fill object, and then we're going to just kind of bake in some RGB. Now, if we do, normally what I would do, if I'm just going to do a really quick render, I'd go into standard brush, RGB, Ziad off, and we would just kind of go through here and just kind of knock back. Let's go ahead and turn up our lazy radius, and then tap L to turn it off. And then you can hold down Shift and turn off Ziad, so you can kind of just smooth out that gradient there. We're still getting some stuff poking through. We can fix that. That's how I'd start. But when I go in here, you're going to see that this is a little bit off. So I'm going to go ahead and just put some white towards the front here and then smooth that out just to give it a little bit of a gradient there. Let's go ahead and turn off perspective. And also, we have some, when we were going through and we were transferring some of this color information. So here's the body. And you know what? Let me see. Let's see if did we maintain that detail? We probably didn't, because if we split this off and then if we, yeah, okay. So one thing you can do is, let's go ahead and turn this off. And let's go back to starting material. You know what, that did maintain our detail. So if you split something off, if you go to like subdivision level 1 and then delete hidden, you should mask first so you don't lose your detail. That's one thing I forgot in the last live stream is, it's kind of silly, but you want to mask before you split off and delete hidden, or it's going to soften your details. Completely skipped my mind. This one seems like we got it. Another thing you can do is you can freeze subdivision levels, and you can like do anything you want to the geometry and then unfreeze it, and it sometimes works good, sometimes maybe not so much. Another thing you can do is you can delete lower, and then do what you want, and then reconstruct. But then you have to make sure that if anything you're adding, you can add subdivision levels too. So you can't like cap this off with a with like just a cylinder cap or something like that and expect it to work. So what we can try to do, and I don't really guess I need to cap that off, I just prefer working with cap geometry, is we can go over here to free subdivision levels, and then we'll go ahead and say, we'll go into our Z modeler brush, BZM, and we're going to say close. If you do a convex hole, it'll cap it to a polarized cap. If you keep it the default, it'll do this. However, you are going to get, it's not going to be mirror geometry. In this case, I don't know that it matters that much. Probably not. And then, so we'll go ahead and say unfreeze subdivision levels. Now go ahead and bring your history back and also subdivide that up. So we'll give that a shot. And if that doesn't work, we'll do it the manual way, which we did last time. And by last time, I mean if you guys missed it. So on my YouTube channel here, we have the live stream of that. And then if you go to, that was streamed on Pixelogic's site. So if we go over here to the Pavlovich Workshop on Pixelogic's channel, here's the, that kind of split there. So you can see we have a cap, and now we have our subdivision levels back. And let's just take a quick look, make sure it did a good job. Hey, it looks like it did. You know what? So we can go down to subdivision level 1, and then go back up to subdivision level 5. We're capped off, and we have our details. If that hadn't have worked, just like we did in our last live stream, you could go through, delete higher, go to subdivision level 1, delete higher, cap this however you want, crease that polygroup, subdivide this up, and then use project history to get all your details back. But make sure you're isolating just the pieces that you want. So in this case, I would like grab this one, invert that, project history, and then bring that back. And that should work also. Still got color. Boy, that we didn't really take our time with that, did we? And by we, I mean me. I won't include you in that. So there we go. And this one looks like it did separate just a bit. So we can do a little bit of meh. This wouldn't be my favorite thing to do. Actually, it might just be the color. Let's see. Skin shader for color fill object. All right, so on this head here, I'm just going to select like a kind of a mid-tone here, and then we'll isolate this, and we'll go RGB color fill object. Let's do this. Control-Shift-X to expand a couple times. Color fill object. There we go. And we should probably do the same thing to some of these other pieces. So we'll just go through, let's find where all our skin is. We're going to select this one, hit solo, isolate, Control-Shift-X. And then fill, just to kind of take some of that super stark white out of there. We'll fix this head in just a second here. We might be able to, I don't know how fancy we can get with that actually. Let's go here, and then again, Control-Shift-X. And this is all stuff I could have headed off at the pass a little bit if I was thinking clearly, but I haven't thought clearly in about a decade, so I'm not expecting that to come back. Okay, good enough. And we're kind of back where we started. Cool, thanks Amir for the kind words. Hey, Bertram. Not too bad. So, we got this, and oh, you know what? When we moved the jaw, when we were doing, when we were opening the mouth a little bit, so we can have a little bit easier access to the edge loops we needed in order to grab these pieces a little bit better. I think for the original, what I was doing, I guess it would be this one here. I can't even see the seams anymore. There we go. So when I was doing this, I moved the jaw down to have a little bit easier time to retopologize the corners of the mouth and stuff. But in my original sculpt, I had to close the mouth after keeping it open while I was sculpting, so that was also a bad idea. Maybe just keep your mouth open if you're gonna. I think the only reason I closed it was for like some renders, but honestly, that's a dumb reason to have that closed here. Let's isolate this one. If we didn't quite get that, that's okay. We didn't really paint that well on here, so I'm going to go ahead and sample that, and we'll just go ahead and paint any of those seams out just a little bit. This is where it's pure white. Now I'm trying to think while I talk and make sure I don't have a whole lot of dead air because I don't have any cool music playing, is how in the world I could use my low res and be able to snap these verts back, because I could do that. Could I do that? I could. Not really. Not in Zbrush. Huh. I might have to resort to something else. Here's a little bit of an error where we were doing the. What did we just do? I'll wake up in a minute, guys. I promise. The freeze transformations, freeze subdivision levels, when it projected back, there's a little error. And I think in that case, just kind of smoothing that out is fine. And again, because we opened this jaw with complete disregard to the neck, we're going to have a problem there. Now, I'm not going to care about that too much because the end result is going to be me opening this head up, and I'm just going to be animating and rendering, so I can kind of pick and choose my shots. Like if I start here and do a render and then start opening the head as I zoom in, no, you're not going to see that. So I could go through and meticulously fix that. I could go out and snap the verts on the low res and then re-import those back in, or maybe even do it on the subdivision level 2 and re-import that back in. But boy, that would be the world's most boring live stream, and I'm not sure it's necessary. Control-Shift-X is expand. So if you go down here to visibility, that's just an easier way. So while I have polygroups on the inside, it's like, oh, I need to grab this plus a few more edge rings. Just grab that polygroup and then Control-Shift-X to expand. Control-Shift-S is shrink, and that's these two right here. It's very useful when you have your original polygroup. So if I duplicate this off, duplicate that and go to subdivision level 1, delete higher. So if I was working just with like panel loops, and I had this result, it's just easy to go here, Control-Shift-X to expand, and now you've got the interior and all of the edge loops, and you Control-Drag and Control-Shift-Drag, and then you've got just that outside polygroup. So, totally cool for that type of stuff. And then if you want to also do Control-Shift-A, that's where you can just grab, like for those teeth here, it's like, you know what, I just want to grab all them bottom teeth. Well, if they're all polygrouped, like if you have like, well, okay, let's do an auto groups mirror and weld. It's like, okay, I want to select all the upper teeth. I can go through here, blah, blah, blah. Or Control-Shift-Drag over most of this, grab a little piece of all of them, then Control-Shift-A, this visibility grow all. And then you can split that off however you'd like. And if you missed a piece, or there's a little mirrored thing we did, you can get rid of that if I can grab it. If not, there, we can grab that. And then here, we'll grab this one, and then Geometry Modify Topology Delete Hidden, and you're off to the races. Now this was taken from the anatomy model that's in Zbrush, so I could rebuild those teeth if I wanted. Again, I have to weigh the importance of doing that. Quick question, is there a brush that does the same thing Trim Smooth Border does, but without picking new height source while the cursor is held? Trim Smooth Border. Trim Dynamic is going to constantly resample the surface, but it's not gonna, it's not going to, The trim brushes, yeah, trim dynamic I think would be the closest thing. Cool, thanks for showing up. Keep UV option, Decimation Master. There is a keep UV option in Decimation Master, but not in the Z-Remesher option. Is there any way to keep UVs after a Z-Remesh? I don't think so, because it's rebuilding. I mean, I guess you could say the same thing for Decimation Masters. It's giving you new geometry. I think Decimation Master is just keeping your UV border. Gosh, I really don't know. In ZBrush, I don't know the answer to that. I would use transfer attributes in Maya if I ever was, and that usually works pretty well if you use like your vert position and world space, and the objects are close together. Like if you're doing a Marvelous Designer piece of clothes to something that's completely zero mesh, transfer attributes works pretty well, I think, usually. If I'm not positive. So get back to this here. If we go back here to white, and we go to, that might be a good Ask ZBrush question, honestly. So I'm going to go back here, and on these ones, if I wanted to sculpt both sides of this, since we've already separated this face out, I can do that. I will just have to reconstruct. So what we can try to do is, let's go ahead and save where we're at. So one thing you can do is you can go up here. After that's saved, I'm going to, all my skin pieces are right in a row. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these and I'm going to delete lower on all of them. And since these vert positions are so close, you're going to want to make sure you do not have weld turned on. So if we go through here and then we merge all these back, so now we got the head here. You can go through and you can turn on X symmetry, and hopefully we can also reconstruct back to our subdivision level 1. Yeah, there we go. So now everything's merged back together. You can sculpt in symmetry, and you also have access to Control-Shift-A, visibility grow all, and then you have your object back. So that could be an option for you to kind of save a little bit of time. So let's go in here with our Damien standard, and this, it may look like as you're moving this around, it's like, oh, I can see that seam really, really well. It might just be a kind of a visual thing. Whenever you get two surfaces really close together in ZBrush, it might just be kind of a visual error, or not really an error, just kind of just an indication that you have a little bit of maybe possible surfaces z-fighting a little bit or something like that. So yeah, we'll go through here and we'll add some of that detail back that we lost, because remember, again, I didn't mask before I split these polygroups off and then deleted hidden. So I'm going to go back in here with my damn standard brush, and we'll go through and we'll just kind of crank up some of this wrinkle detail. And you know what? Let's load up some of our reference we had earlier. I'm going to go ahead and load up Quadro. If I can find it. There it is. Thank you. Let's see. Question, do you usually use floaters for the detail of the high poly, or just sculpt or model them? Kind of depends on if I'm having fun in ZBrush, I don't tend to use a lot of floaters, but if I'm doing it for production, whatever gets the job done easiest with the best quality, and floaters can absolutely provide that. If you're trying to like resolve a surface that's really difficult with a bunch of stuff built into it, a lot of times it's not worth going through and fighting it. It's basically like make the basic shapes, sub D the basic shapes however you want, so you can resolve those surfaces nice and easy, and then all the little stuff that's just going to be baked down anyways as the final result. Or if it's going to be a decal floater and engine, yeah, don't fight it, especially if the results are good enough, or the results are the same, or the results might actually be better and it's faster. So there's really no downside other than if possible stigma anybody might have towards using floaters. let's see, what was I looking for? Oh yeah. And I was pretty sure by now I would be awake. But boy, am I ever not. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to add a few images from artists. And we're going to grab some Jordu Shell. Jorduschell. And, you know, we can maybe have a little bit more fun. Let's see. So I'm just going to grab some kind of sculpted skin reference here. Let me see if I can just grab a whole strip. That's a good one. Just looking for some kind of general skin here. Sorry, I should have had this prepared. I didn't even think about it. And let's say this one and this one. So I'm going to say open. There we go. So now I can just have some reference around my screen. Here and here, and kind of zoom in a little bit. So like this kind of reference here, we can use this to kind of dictate, you know, where you're going to put your colors and what kind of details are kind of nice to have. And I can just move this all around my screen. I don't have to worry about containing it to just one, you know, square area. And you can also do, if you wanted to zoom in on all the eyeballs and then save that out as a preset. That's what Quadro is good at. So you can save those out as separate presets there. I think this will be good. Let me just zoom in here. Okay. And then, you know what, let's swap these out because we're not doing a super zombie. Although that might be kind of cool. And then this strip will zoom in up here. Beautiful. Alrighty. We got everything we need. And you know what, let's go ahead and save this. Save preset. All right. Hey, John Yu. How's it going? Did you try VR sculpting? I like to keep my arms down. I like to move as little as possible while I sculpt. So no, I haven't. Looks cool though. If I was making a VR game or the end experience for my assets were in VR, absolutely. That would be a really great place to kind of create. But since nothing I do is ever going to be seen in VR, at least, I mean, there's VR platforms. I could put it on, but honestly, unfortunately, I was hoping that VR would have taken off a little bit more and AR would have taken off a little bit more. If anything, just to provide more CG jobs out there, because I think it's cool technology and there's a lot of really neat stuff beyond like a VR video game that you could do with it. However, God, there's just no point. If you're playing the numbers game, you know, there's not a huge audience there. Not that I do things just for audiences, but when I only stream once a month at best, let's go ahead and make our Z intensity a little bit lower. You know, I gotta pick and choose my battles. So best I can do is use my Wacom Intuos tablet, hop on a ZBrush real quick, and hopefully make something worthwhile. So here under this eyeball skin, we can actually, let's try going in here to our, we got a little alpha. Do we have another alpha? Let's hit the comma key and go into our alpha here. Let's see if we have anything decent for skins. I think what I'm looking for is like an alpha like this. And I think the default, oh, here we go, leathery alphas. These come in with your default alphas. So let's take this leathery skin 15. So let's go in here to our standard brush. And we'll go ahead and clone this off. And we'll go ahead, let's try a drag rec first. And then for this alpha, we'll go ahead and load in leathery skin 15. Double click it. And as long as it's a 16-bit grayscale, I'm trying to see if you can see that on here. If you hover over it. Oh, it's not. It's depth of 8. Well, 16-bit grayscale is probably your best bet as far as getting that to work best with gradients. But let's go ahead and turn on Ziad for this brush. And then now as you drag these out and you hold down Alt, you can get that. So let's go ahead and drop that Z intensity down. And really what I'm looking for is just kind of a crisscross kind of skin look up here. However, you can also try and do maybe a spray stroke. And it's a little bit mushy and a little bit harsh. Not digging it too much. Let me also, give me a second. It's getting a little hot in here with my door closed. Okay, turn that down. Yeah, yeah, even the VR games and stuff, I'd love to, hell, I'd just love to play any game at this point. Fighting with baking documentation. Don't know what's best software to bake. Marmoset Substance Crazy Bump. The best is the one that gives you the best result. Substance Painter's really good for like set it and forget it, and just kind of go through and export your stuff as FBX and have it baked to your namespaces, and you're good. And the default settings work really well. If you need a lot of control, Marmoset gives you a lot of control. Those are the two I use the most. I don't want to say like those are the two you should use. XNormal's probably also fine. It's been a long while since I've used XNormal, but you can use XNormal. Nothing wrong with that. A lot of options in there too. And also there's a lot of options in Substance Painter that you may not just be using, like, cages and stuff like that. But if you want to see your cages and do the tilt or the skew mask painting and stuff like that, we do have some of that, don't we? Am I crazy? I know the game res stuff is on Gumroad, but oh, here we go. Yeah, the Mechanical Skull series. If you go in here to the playlists, high res rendering, Substance Painter. Oh, you know what? It is. I was gonna say I did this recently. We baked in Marmoset. All right, let me see. Full video list here. I think. Sorry, my brain is just not very good anymore. So here's the high-res organic where we just sculpted the skull. This isn't on YouTube. And then high-res mechanical's on YouTube, so you can see all the links. And then the game res here. Yeah, it's this. Okay, yeah. Marmoset setup and baking, Marmoset cage offset, cage files, resolution and skew painting. All this was in there. But I mean, geez, you can just go to the Marmoset website. It has tutorials on that. It's not rocket science. In a good way. It's that their stuff is set up in a way that doesn't require a degree in baking to get a decent result. Same thing with Substance Painter. You just have a little more visible visual control in Marmoset. And of course, once you're done in Marmoset, you can just drag your texture files into Substance Painter, no problem. And this is also an area where you could like bring in texture XYZ alphas and really like go like skin cell resolution. Let's go ahead and for this stuff we should probably go up to resolution level 5. So I was doing kind of a little bit of form exploration on some of the bigger wrinkles, and this stuff too you can isolate down. Control Shift A. So even though these are separate polygroups, as long as you don't have mask by polygroup on or anything like that, you'll still be able to kind of sculpt across symmetry, and then go through here. Let's go in there with clay brush, and we're not touching the poly paint right now. I'm kind of leaving that alone. We'll go back in and kind of beef that up. When we get there. So I'm just kind of going to go through and they might have some texture XYZ stuff in Substance as well, now that I think about it. When we were doing the Zbrush 2020 head sculpting, there was some moles and stuff you can get from Substance Source that I think was pulling from texture XYZ. Something to consider. And let's take a look at these lips. You can put a little, it's nice to kind of sometimes put a little ring around that upper lip just to get it to catch that light. Now, of course, if you really go in there and you indent it, you're going to get a very distinct look. I'm not sure if that's what I'm going for. Let's go drop down to level 4 so we can just kind of mess around with those volumes as opposed to details here a little bit. So I want to push around big shapes, and this is kind of the cool thing about working with subdivisions as opposed to Dynamesh. Once you've got it to a certain point and you go through and you Z-remesh and you reproject your details, the ability just to kind of hop down and work with your volumes a little bit more independent of your details is super nice. God, let's keep dropping that Z intensity down. Okay. So we'll put some. So here we can go through and we can spray like this kind of detail too if we want to, but honestly, it doesn't take that long, and you have all the control in the world if you're just going through and just kind of getting these kind of skin textures. It's easy enough to do. Let's go ahead and hit Control Shift, and then on this lower lip here, we'll do the exact same thing. So just kind of some feather light. You know what? Let's keep dropping that Z intensity down. And I am kind of staying away from that middle. Ideally, I would have done this in a much different order. I would have done the correct order of operations. So if I was going to do like a good tutorial on this as opposed to a live stream, do it live. I would have gotten the correct order of operations in there, so you wouldn't have to listen to me go, okay, this bad thing happened because I did this first and I forgot to do this, and then I had paid the price with this. And a lot of things in CG 3D as well is order of operations is so important, so you don't have to go through and do a ton of cleanup. If you just do things in the right order, everything just kind of snaps into place, and that even goes from like game design and stuff like that too. If you figure the right things out first, everything else is just icing on the cake, and everything just kind of falls into place. And if you do things in the wrong order, going back and fixing and reworking and throwing away stuff is rampant. But then again, knowing what that order is sometimes not so clear when you're in the thick of things. It's easy with 20/20 hindsight to go, oh yeah, this is always how you should do it. But while you're doing it, sometimes not so easy. But we'll go back in here with our brush, and we got this, and we'll try, you know what, we can go in here with a spray stroke, hold down Alt, because that's kind of giving me what I'm looking for. It's just kind of messy. Let's see if we got a better alpha that's a little bit higher res. I don't think this one's going to do it, but let's drop that Z intensity down. One thing we could do is we could do it a little bit softer. Let's go down here to our layers, and then we'll make a new layer, and we'll do kind of a soft pass, and then we'll stop recording. And let's do better than that. Let's do soft pass like this, and then we can stop recording. I said stop recording. I said stop recording, and then we'll go ahead and turn off our skin there. And then now we have the opportunity to go back in here, and you could actually invert this if you want to, but what I'm really looking for is just a little bit of control over cranking that detail we sprayed. You could also do maybe repeat last stroke, but this just gives you a little bit more fine control over that. So you can kind of dial that in maybe, and then you can just say bake all layers. And you can also use layers to animate, so maybe we'll do that eventually. Smooth, drop that intensity down. But yeah, just really, ideally I would have some very, very high resolution 16-bit alphas for that type of work, because it can get real grainy, real noisy, real fast. Not my favorite thing. And that's where I can normally resort to just being like, you know what, if this is the shape I'm going for, I'll just create a brush for it. You can also do that in ZBrush. Just, yeah, maybe we'll do that. We'll recreate like this skin stamp texture on a plane and then just capture that. And then you know the resolution will be enough. You don't have to rely on somebody's CG texture from 1996. Just create it. And then, depending on how crazy we want to go here, So these lateral wrinkles kind of go through and follow this direction. And once we get up here towards the top, I'm going to think that's probably going to smooth out. And it's just going to be a little bit more, because when you wrinkle your forehead a lot, you're not really wrinkling this up here unless you have, you know, some very high muscles up there. So basically, where the face moves, and if you've been moving for 80 years, you're going to end up with, you know, sun damage and all the damage your skin goes through protecting you over the years. This is what catches it all. So this is what's going to hold a lot of that information as you get older. I'm creeping into my 40s. I look in the mirror and I just don't even know who I am anymore. I don't really feel 38. That's not true. I definitely feel 38. And we'll go through here, and again, just as the skin kind of moves around these areas, we can kind of just follow those folds a little bit, and we can knock these details down. Or if we want to pump them up, go in here with your standard brush, your clay brush, and just kind of go through here and in between here, or inflate as well. This kind of adds some more height in these areas, and you can be selective about it too. It doesn't have to be all uniform and stuff, and that's why if you're going to do like cavity masking and sculpting over it, cavity masking you got to be careful with, just to make sure that it's not, number one, not giving you a grainy result, and number two, you're not just getting overly uniform. So in that case, I would say maybe cavity mask this. Instead of talking about it, let's do it. Go over here to your cavity, and you can say mask by cavity. Let's open that profile up, and let's also switch over to flat color so we can see what we're doing. So yeah, you can see it's kind of aliased. So you can kind of play with this profile here. If you drop this down and mask by cavity, you get a little more room with that mid-range information. If you go over here with it, you can start, it's almost like a levels. So you can kind of go through here and just kind of grab just the details. Also that blur here. We'll kind of blob those details together. So let's turn that blur down because we can also do that later. It kind of works like this. So you can go in here to mask adjust afterwards. Then you can hit apply, and that'll blur it out like 1 here. And you can also change this to kind of see if you can. Let's turn that blur down to 0 here. And in this case, let's go ahead and reset it, and we can reset this back up. So we'll set this here and this here, and then you can use focal shift to kind of get more or less, although this one doesn't seem to be doing much. I wonder, I've used this before, I'm just trying to remember what I used it on. Anyway, okay, so let's say we like this. You can also manually go in and blur. You can control tap and that'll blur it out, but that's going to be controlled underneath your preferences. I want to say somewhere in here, maybe transpose. I want to say it was with transpose just because you can use transpose to mask things along with your gizmo. But somewhere in there is like a mask setting where if you release, it'll blur that mask by that much. But anyway, let's go back here to our Nightcap Gray. And then we can go through here. We can turn off View Mask. It's still there. You just won't see it. And then you can go in here with your Inflate brush or your clay brush. And then you can selectively go through and kind of start brushing in detail. But you're going to see, gross. So let's try, let's turn our mask back on. And then we'll go in here and we'll say, you know what? Let's blur that. Uno. 1, enter, apply. And then we'll turn that off. Yeah, still nasty. Well, we tried. You can also invert it. Turn off your mask, and then you can go through and you can hold down Alt and you can deflate through that mask. And again, you could use your layers for this too, or you can go in here with like your clay brush with a very low setting, and you can hold down Alt and kind of increase that contrast, Control Tap to invert that mask, and then go in here again, just very low, and kind of selectively add it in. I wouldn't do like an inflate, you know, that's probably going to be a bit much. But at the end of the day, I don't know, maybe you guys have better settings than I do, but getting that to work, not so easy. And also I didn't stay away from the midline. We can always fix that, like we did in the yesterday's live stream, where we go through, and let's crank that intensity up again, where we go through and we just snap that midline as we step through our subdivisions, but it's fine for now. Okay, so we have our major wrinkle forms going. Let's go through here, and let's add a few more this way. And if you do need to go and work on like more secondary forms, again, just drop this down to subdivision level 4 or even 3 and go through here and kind of push these things around a little more aggressively. Or even go in here with like a clay brush, kind of pump up the jam a little bit. Again, independent of your detail. And then we'll go back in up to subdivision level 5. You know, let's do subdivision level 4. Here. Yeah. Okay. There we go. So now let's do a little bit of spraying as well. So let's go back to our standard brush here, and we'll go into our dots. Let's try the sharp dots spray, and we're on subdivision level 4, so this is going to be more of just loose read here. Turn on Ziad and turn that Z intensity way down, because we're just going to kind of modulate that surface just a bit. And it's not so much, we're going to go back in on subdivision level 5 with a little sharper detail, but this is just kind of break up. And you could have alphas for all sorts of this stuff. You could literally paint neck alphas onto the neck, and eyebrow, nose pore alphas onto the nose. The world is your oyster. Ear pore detail. I'm playing a little bit fast and loose here, but you get the point. And again, I'm subdivision level 4. I'm just kind of modulating the surface a little bit, and then we go up to level 5, and then we can do a pass where you kind of go through and we, again, selectively, in this one, let's see if we drag rect. Like on some of these areas, and again, you could make your own alphas, it's not unheard of. Even if you were just going through and sculpting. Let's turn off X symmetry while I'm going down the midline here on this detail. And even the wrinkle detail, you don't want to work in symmetry this as long as I did. There we go. And we'll kind of pepper that in there. The earlobes and the ears and stuff, probably not a tremendous amount of pores. It's over the cartilage, might be a little bit smoother. Maybe just drop that Z intensity down and just kind of, again, just break up the skin texture, but not necessarily drop a bunch of big heavy pores along there. Okay, so now going through there, and let's turn on our texture. And now this one, we did like to use the cavity mask. So if I go in here to our mask by cavity, and then we invert that, and then we turn off view mask, and then we go in here with our, yeah, I'll stay with our, actually I probably should have let the standard brush alone, since we had the new standard brush we made. Go in here with RGB, and then we'll go in here and, you know what, let's sample. Let's tap C to sample again. So you can drag off, and you can select a material. You can also drag off and select a color. In the case of color, though, just tap C to inherit whatever underlying value you're looking for. And also, let's go into our, let's get us a little bit closer to where we would actually end up rendering from. Material. Modifiers, let's crank up that diffuse. And you can even add a little bit more specular if you want. And then you can also change that specular curve if you want it more shiny or less shiny. And even for this, if you wanted to change it from a fong to a blin, You could dial that in as well. I'm trying to think what else we might want to do. That should work. But now that we have more cavity detail, again, we can just apply that to cavity mask, and now we're picking up a lot more cavity information. Control tap to invert that, and then our turn off view mask. We just go through here with our RGB turned down, and now we can kind of go through and start painting into these crevices a little bit. And you can kind of pick, you know, you can still maintain that, you know, where the blood pools maybe a little redder, and then up here in the golden zone, you can dial that in a little bit. That probably makes sense, right? Around the mouth here, and then when we get towards the neck, we kind of cool it off just a bit. Ooh, maybe not that much. And also maybe not that saturated. And then you control tap to invert that mask, and you can turn off view mask, and now the cavities are left alone, and now you can go through here, and you can really start hard hitting a little bit more skin variation, and you can leave your cavities alone. So, again, keep saying it, the world is your oyster. Not exactly sure what that means. And we'll go ahead and pepper in some ruddy tones. And if this is a little bit much, you can dial it back. You can go in here, grab a little bit more of a skin tone. There's a difference between, because I mean, if you really want to play this up, you know, you could just go in there and do it like a more of a stylized look, where you're really dialing in that skin tone. And again, also, like, he's starting to look like death. He's not looking so healthy, which is kind of cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you did want to do something a little bit more alive, because, you know, if I do have like zombie reference or something, and this is also something you could also do, go in here to your, I guess we did this on Zbrush 2020. I keep talking about this, but go back to my ArtStation page, my YouTube page, like the Zbrush 2020 What's New. This is where we were like coloring in, you know, the head and so we kind of did do a little bit more of a zombie look with that skin. And we actually painted, that's another thing too, is you can go through here and you can paint these skin details from a photograph. So if you have some good polarized images you want to bring in, or not, you can paint out, if you're playing it fast and loose, you could paint out some of that polarized information. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting backed up here. Okay, if I missed anything, I apologize. They're coming in fast and furious now. If you had to use something other than ZBrush, what would be your go-to software? Everything. I use it's easier for me to live stream ZBrush because I know it well enough and I can get results faster and it's not boring everybody to death. But I use everything. All of it. Cool. And again, if I miss something, polygon count's up here in the upper left-hand corner. For high-res, polygon count's kind of irrelevant. Optimization is where polygon count makes a little bit more of a difference. Let's see. Catching up. Mixer 2020, I haven't checked that out. I mean, I saw the video on it. I'll get around to it one day. Yes, everybody wash your hands. When I make a model for 3D print, I make every subtool separate. When I merge everything using Dynamesh, the mesh gets pixelated. No matter how much I increase the value in Dynamesh, it stays the same. What you could do is you could Dynamesh everything together and then ZRemesh that envelope result and then subdivide the ZRemesh result and project your details back. So you get the envelope, and then you can get the envelope, subdivide the Dynamesh, and then project history back to all your details. SolidWorks. No, Fusion 360 and Moi. What is SolidWorks? 3D engineering? Yeah, 3D CAD. No, I've used Fusion 360 and Moi. And I think that covers all my CAD needs. So, Oh, that's another thing too. Like Bearwolf says, instead of, I mean, the remesh by union will do a Boolean. It'll Boolean all your objects together, and then as long as your objects are good and a lot of good overlap, it should give you a nice clean envelope result too, without losing any detail because it's literally going through and just sewing up polygons. Good point, Bearwolf. Recommend any universities or college to get a degree in 3D? You know what? Any information, like I'm 38. I went to college in 2000 and oh geez, 1999, 2001 to 2005. So I graduated 15 years ago, and I'm gonna guess. I don't know for a fact, but I'm gonna guess things have changed since then. But I do have. Let's see if I manage my blog. It's a little bit easier. There we go. Do I need a college degree? Because I get this sometimes. So I'm going to say, you know what? Let's just do this. Let's just go to my profile. Everything. Oh, I got a lot of stuff in there. So let's go to my blog. And you can read me not answering that question, but it'll give you my probably nearly worthless take. Or at least tell you how it was 15 years ago. I'm not going to be the kind of boomer who's going to be like, just here's what you do. This is what I did in 1976, and certainly things haven't changed since then. I don't know. Because that's what I had to go through growing up. Sculpting on a normal graphics card is not because I have seen some Quadro cards that are specialized in this kind of stuff, but I don't know if it's worth getting one. For Zbrush, no. For other things, it kind of depends on. It really depends on how fast you want to render. I've never used. Well, and that's not true. I have used Quadro cards. Gaming cards are usually good enough, and usually when I'm going into Unreal and stuff, and I want to make sure that things are working. Production stuff, I suppose is fine for Quadro, but it's nice to have a gaming card available, and honestly, gaming cards seem to do what I need it to do, so your choice. I can't say yay or nay on that one. Awesome. Thank you for the kind words. Hello from Poland. Yeah, Zbrush is a little CPU and memory heavy. Is Zbrush here? Let's do a quick BPR render. Oh, that's another thing too. So if you want to get a little bit of that ready flavor in there, get a little bit more of that fake SSS, you can go in here to wax modifier, crank that up a little bit, and then in your render properties, turn on that wax preview, and then you can dial in that strength just on the skin shaders where it's turned on, so it's not going to be for everything. And then you get a little bit of a nice result. And you know what? I always like to go in here to render shadow, and we'll take this strength down a bit and then also pump that angle up. And then if you're going to do that, you're going to get some banding. So that's where you're going to go in here to your rays and maybe crank those up. And that'll give you a little bit of a softer fall off towards as it gets further away from light. And that's the kind of going here to performance here. So on the 3970X, we got 32 cores here. So when I go through and I hit, actually let's turn on AO so it's going to go too fast. Ambient occlusion, we'll go ahead and turn on, and we'll say, you know what, the AO is probably fine. I am going to crank that blur way down, and I'm going to go in here and crank up my rays and resolution. So when I hit BPR, this is where it'll go through and really kind of tax your processor. That kind of rendering. So there's CPU rendering, there's GPU rendering, there's hybrid renders. It depends on how much time you want to spend. So let's turn on a little perspective here and hit BPR. There we go. Let's see. Oh, awesome. Thanks for showing up. Yeah, CGMA is starting back up. So, soon. Oh boy, I should probably prepare for that. Cool. Just getting caught up. You have any new Substance Painter courses? Kind of. We had one for, actually, that's probably the better place to look for it. So my profile here, you can go check out this, and if you scroll down, you'll see the Mechanical Skull series. This is everything all kind of nice into one area here. So if you go in here to Substance Painter, we go through a lot of Substance Painter functionality. There's 20 videos on that, but also my YouTube channel. If you just go through the playlist section here, I assume you guys, yeah, you guys have access to the playlist section. You can check that out. And there's, yes, a high-res Substance Painter Skull playlist. So you can just check this out. Blender course will be coming along whenever I'm able to sit down and actually do 3D work. The only 3D work I do now is literally showing up once a month doing this stuff for fun. One day. How do you rig characters? Usually in Maya. Our animation backbone's hard to beat in Maya. You can rig a number of things, but Maya is my rigging animation program of choice. How would I project a JPEG of a maze to a 3D maze? You can use, I mean, if it's black and white and you literally just want to use the geometry, you can go in here to displacement map and load that in, and then you can just, or you can use Spotlight. So you can go in here to Spotlight here, and you can load up your image in Spotlight, and then you can just paint through onto your object, and then you could turn that into a mask, and then you could extract that geometry, or you could zero mesh that geometry and give it thickness. A lot of different ways to do that. Also, you show some of your first works. I do have some really old stuff on my ArtStation. If you go to my profile and you go all the way to the bottom here, oh, these two areas. So here's some old college 2D work that I did, and then old college 3D work is going to be in this area. Not necessarily college. This is like some early ZBrush 4.8 stuff. I'm trying. Yeah, keep scrolling. This is one of the first ZBrush models I ever did. Is this spider shaman dude, and then these are just kind of caricature passes, kind of going through and swapping skin tones and stuff. Actually, this is really old stuff too, like just kind of early stuff. Any websites where I can find some high-res images of naked bodies? I'm sculpting a witch. I'm looking for 80-year-olds wrinkled skin reference. 3DSK and 1024 scan store should have you covered. If you're just looking for images, 3DSK has a ton, and all different types and skin types and all that stuff, ages and different body types. Yes. Do you use pin pressure to control brush size, or you switch it off? Whatever the default is, honestly. I'll tap S for my ZBrush draw size. In fact, there is a plugin, ZBrush plugins. And if you go down here, I think there's like a quick scale, layer depth, startup, panel loop, IMM, repeat it, mat cap, oh, that's IMM draw size. I thought there was like a all-in-one scale. You can also tap spacebar or hold down spacebar and go in here and change your draw size really quickly too, and a bunch of other things too. But yeah, I'll usually just hit S to do my brush size, and then whatever the defaults are. So I think, hell, I don't know, honestly. So here's the other thing. I'm just a hack. Like, do I actually know anything? Probably not. I'm gonna be honest. Like, what do I do? It's a mystery. Let's go in here to tablet pressure. Yeah, it looks like size is on. I'm not using global settings for the standard brush, so yeah, a little bit of size is on, a little bit of Z intensity is on, and then also underneath preferences, tablet. Use tablet is on, size sensitivity. Yeah, whatever the defaults are. Is there between wax preview and SSS? Will I need to use BPR to see the effects? For SSS, what you'll have to do, good question. So with wax preview, that's just a real-time kind of fake. If you go into your render here, and you go into underneath render pass, you're going to see there's an SSS area. So if you want that on, you have to go in here and turn on SSS. And then when you hit BPR, this will populate. So it's rendering another mask out. Now, in order to get this to actually do something, you might have to do it in post. And by that I mean you can export this out and use it in like your compositing program to put in information into that area where it's white. But you can also go down here to your BPR filters. Now, if you want more information on BPR filters, make sure you check out Zbrush 2019 What's New. So this is a bunch of stuff on the new BPR filters, and we used it more for like NPR rendering, non-photorealistic rendering, where you can do all sorts of zany stuff. But if you're just doing subtle stuff too, you can go in here and you can turn on like F1. We can change this filter to be, let's just do red. So it's going to kind of make things redder. You can turn down the amount of red you want to put in and also the opacity of that red. And then when you go down here to mask, you can say, I want to mask just where my SSS mask is. So now you can see, oh, and also mask out my background. So now you can see I mask out my background, and now here's my face with all the red, and then here it is just mask off, and here it is just masking where the SSS mask is. And you can do an AO mask, XSS exponent, shadow, Fresnel, all these things you can mask out where you want that effect to happen. So if you go back up here and you see where it's white in our SSS mask, we now have, when we hit BPR, so we can actually go ahead and turn off your wax preview. So now when you hit BPR, we'll get a little bit red in our SSS areas. If you want to change those SSS properties, subsurface scattering properties, go in here to subsurface scattering properties, and then you can change your angle and your ray and your V depth and your L depth and stuff like that. It's been a while since I've done that. I'm not an expert at it, but that's the basics. And then as long as you have the filter on, whenever you hit BPR, it'll go through and add anything you've done in post, quote unquote, if that makes sense. And then once you've done that, you can go back up to your render settings. So here's your shaded view, and then here's your, so you can see how this one has no SSS on it, and then this is your composite, which is putting all your filters on. So if you wanted to just export this and with your SSS and do it in post, you can do it here, or you can go to your composite and just have whatever result you got in ZBrush. This material is Skin Shader 4. Better read polish with your character's arms in A pose, or could you do it in a more relaxed pose with the arms down? Well, if you want access to anything in the armpits, I would say A pose. Yeah, exactly. And you know, I just gotta make time. Yeah. Advice for staying focused. Oh boy. Someone else is gonna weigh in there. I am the most scattered person in the world. I spend most of my day on Slack getting nothing done because I can't focus. Or getting very little done. Did you go to school for 3D modeling or you learn by yourself? I went to Texas State Technical College in Waco, Texas, and I got my associate's degree in integrated digital imaging. And then I went to Ringling School of Art and Design, which is now Ringling College, and then I got my 4-year degree there, my bachelor's in computer animation. So that's where I learned the entire pipeline. That's all on my blog, the blog I posted earlier. That's my whole history. I use ZBrush for texturing pretty much every model, but I don't have knowledge of Substance Painter. Do I need to really learn that just for texturing? Sure, it's fun. There's nothing funner than having fun in Substance Painter. A lot of cool stuff you can do in there. A lot of non-destructive stuff you can do in there too. Yes, learn it. Can I remesh my Maya objects in ZBrush? Sure. It's not illegal. Any tips for doing likenesses aside from practice, practice, practice? Practice, and then the second thing you're going to want to do is practice, and then the third thing, it's the most important thing, is practice. But you know, if you go in here and you have Spotlight, basically, bring in your stuff in the Spotlight and then match underneath Draw. Here, make sure you match if you have the information, the focal length of the camera they're shooting with, and then you can just likenesses are just, if you have good reference and the focal length information, and you just go through and you meticulously, sculpt from all the angles you have your reference at, likeness is just, it's almost like poor man's photogrammetry. You're basically going in with 16 images instead of 2,000, and you're just manually matching vertex to pixel information. It's no different. So if you want to get a likeness really fast, what you do is you get a a dome. Let me see. What you do is you set up a bunch of cameras like this, and you have someone sit there, and then you hit a button, and then you go, okay, take a picture. And they have all these polarized lenses, and the lighting's all diffuse and perfect, so it's going to capture just the information you want, and then you get a perfect likeness. Now, what you can do manually is you can go on Google, and you can and you can get a bunch of different pictures of a celebrity, and then you can load them up, and then you go and you stamp to one angle and you do it, you step to another angle and you do it. And if you do that enough, instead of getting it instantaneously, you manually go through and you're kind of like the medieval version of a photogrammetry machine. And then past that point, of course, you got your primary and secondary forms, and then you go and you have your reference up, and then you go and you use your texture XYZ to get all the poor detail on Brad Pitt's face or Angelina Jolie's face or whoever the likeness of the month is, the Breaking Bad guy, and then boom, you're done. And you're a genius. Yes, I was classically trained as an animator, and I am the world's worst animator. Not because it was bad school, it was because I never animated after I graduated. And I wasn't that good when I was animating while I was going there. Something that just never really, I never put enough time into. By the time we got to the animation section, I'd already done modeling and texturing, and I kind of wanted to do more of that. And then animation was kind of like, oh, okay, I'll be kind of crappy at this. And then when we got into post, that was a little more interesting to me too. So. When do you walk your dog? I always pick up after my dog, and that's something we've gotten really good at because we've had dogs for a long time now. But we have a really lazy mutt. We used to think she was a border collie, and then it turns out she's like Shiba slash. Oh, my wife would remember. Her DNA test came back really bizarre. She's 0% border collie, but she looks like a border collie. Looks like a snow white border collie. And then we got a Staffy mix from Brady, Texas, and she from a shelter. These are both rescues, and the Staffy looks like a kind of like a fuzzier Staffy, where she's. Oh, we can fix that too. Let's go in here. Oh, is that the? That's a little piece of that skull poking through. Alt tap, alt tap, alt tap. Grab that. Yeah, okay. Let's hit our move brush and yep, get there, grab that back in. She's like a long-haired Staffy with a big fat otter tail, and she's 50% Staffy, and then she's also she's 50% Staffy, and then she's Border Collie, Australian Shepherd, and Lab. The other 50% mixed, kind of split evenly on that other side. Let's switch back over here to our Madcap Gray. I'm wanting to get a little bit more detail up here in this sketch 5 here. This thing too, so you can go through here and you can sculpt, and then you can pop everything else back. And wherever you need a little bit more information, you can always go back in. You can also manually go through if you want to, like with your Damien standard, just turn on RGB and then grab, I don't know, let's grab a little bit lighter. You may need to drop that RGB intensity down a bit. Go through here and you can pop these colors here, and you can also go through and recess some of these wrinkles here. And again, we're just kind of painting. So if you wanted to match up perfectly, this is where your cavity map would come into play. There we go. Okay, so let's take a look here. We'll go ahead and liven him up a little bit. Let's go ahead and Oh, that's another thing you do too. So you have RGB intensity on, and if you go down here to your brush, and you go to your texture, Alvin texture, there is a polypaint mode. So right now it's a standard, so it's just going to paint right over it. You could also switch to Colorize, Multiply Light and Darken. Let's try Colorize. Now you paint, it'll give you a little bit of a different result. It's going to mix those colors a little bit differently. So now when we go through here, let's drop that to a little reddier red. And we'll go through here and see if we can RGB intensity down just a bit. And we'll go through here and we'll kind of pool some blood. Also, we can go through here and we can do like a spray stroke. Now you can do spray with an alpha. Let's do a softer alpha. You know what? Let's do that, kind of break up this a little bit so you don't get just big swaths of even color. And then we can go back in with that orange and make this a little smaller. And again, just go through and do kind of a breakup pass. Go back in. There we go. So we'll kind of, and these lips here, you can make them blue if you wanted to give them that kind of dead look, or you can kind of go in and make them disappear if you wanted to. Kind of give them a skin tone. Again, just it kind of depends on the look you're going for. And let's also go through here and we're going to cool this off just a bit down underneath here. And some ruddy reds right along this ear. And then as we get towards that cartilage here, we'll go back in with some yellows. We can sample from here. And then we'll just go in here with some, sorry this is boring. But anyway, let's see what else we got. Teach how to play XYZ maps here to get a skin effect. If I had any XYZ stuff, I could, but also Texture XYZ's website's pretty good. They have a bunch of tutorial things there that can walk you through it. I don't actually have access to any of those maps on my home machine. I might be able to export them out of Substance Painter, I suppose. Let's go grab some purples. And then all right, so we got some detail back in our face, and I'm going to go back through and maybe punch in a little bit more of that wrinkle color. And back here you can see where we kind of started. I'm just basically going through with a smaller brush, and you can also do color spray if you wanted to, like a variance between, you can see in here color intensity variance and color flow variance. You can give that a shot, and that'll kind of give you an automatic breakup. And when you're doing very subtle things like this, it probably works fine. If you needed the ultimate control though, maybe not. And let's go in here with like a gray-green. And let's turn this alpha off and go to freehand or dot stroke RGB. And so these veins over here, let's go ahead and turn on Ziad as well. So we'll turn that Z intensity up just a bit. And so while we're doing this vein over here, we can be adding a little bit of height information as we're coloring a little bit. So and then we'll turn Ziad off. We'll go in here. And we still have this polypaint mode set to 1 or 2, so we'll set that back to 1. back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. C to sample. And again, you know, when you go to render this, the AO is going to do quite a bit. The shadows are going to do a bit. So, and you know what? Let's go ahead and turn this alpha off and spray off, and let's get a little bit more heavy-handed in some of these areas here. And in this case, let's go into back into our masking here. We'll do our mask by cavity. Invert that and turn off our view mask. So I'm going to paint in the cavities, RGB intensity down a bit. And this kind of isolate, and you can modulate your color as you go. And then we'll go to a little bit grayer, cooler. And we'll go back up here to these reds. And we can control tap to invert that, turn off view mask, and now you can leave your cavities alone, and you can go through here and you can kind of do like a little bit of kind of sun damage. You can go in here to our oranges and kind of put in some heavier shades here. And then you've got a bone underneath here. You've got your nasal bone right here, and then it's going to switch to cartilage. So you can kind of, sometimes you can put like a little indication of where that split is. You can have a little bit of a dip through here. And also maybe even a color change if you really want to kind of push that idea. I don't know. Up to you. And again, we can get a little bit more heavy-handed. We can kind of even just manually go through here. Let's turn off X symmetry real quick. And we'll kind of go through here and just model this up here. And along this brow, kind of the same thing. Let's go ahead and go to our golden tones here. All right, need another subject. When doing a likeness, do you do planar studies for practice and then adjust it to your subject? When I'm doing a likeness, probably not. When I'm doing a likeness, I mean, I don't do a lot of likenesses. I think a lot of the time, most of the stuff where it's been like hyper real humans has been from scan data. And it's because it's production. Like a lot of times it's like, hey, if we want this result, then we hire this actor or we hire this person to give us the information we need, and then very quickly, with the right setup, we can just very quickly kind of go and grab what we need. So that's been my experience. I haven't been paid to, and I haven't bothered to go through and do like, let me break down how to do a likeness, because usually if I'm getting paid to do it, the information is just captured. I've never had to do a job where I've had to like go on Google image search and do a likeness of somebody. So I'm probably not qualified to answer that question too much. Let's also go through here. Let's unmask everything. We'll go in here darker, and since we didn't really punch in all the way up through our nostrils and also through our eyeballs, we're going to have to get rid of this stuff back here, because if we're going to animate this and the eyeballs are going to go blop, blop through this eyelid skin, this is going to look really bizarre. But for now, we can kind of just knock this down, knock it back. And then, yeah, let's put a little tap C, and then just right around this lower lid. We'll go ahead and crank that up. And you know what? Let's go back in here to our mask by cavity again. So we've got our cavities masked. Good. So we'll go ahead and turn that off, and I'm just going to go through here and really punch in just a little bit more contrasty information. I want it to look too uniform. Let me see if I can get some better reference of anything interesting. I'll go ahead and sample this kind of grayish color. Maybe punch up that saturation just a tad. Go in here with some greens. And again, I'm kind of over cranking, probably more than I should be, but that's okay. Let's go back in here with our Damien standard brush, and we'll kind of emphasize, oops, Ziad turned on. Huh. Looks like Damien standard needs to be Z sub by default. Duh. I was getting that confused with my standard brush. Okay, so we'll go through here, and then this ear's looking a little bit soft. So we can go through here and kind of play around with this a little bit more. Clay brush, make sure you turn RGB off if you're just going to be sculpting. It is good to kind of sculpt in context with your material and your colors applied, because when we go in here, now you can also change your light up a little bit, because this is a real-time shader as opposed to a matte cap. So you can go through here and get your lighting information updated in real time. So you can kind of go through and evaluate that a little bit easier. Oops. And again, let's get some more. So this is the kind of thing, if I was doing a tutorial, I would be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to do some commentary over me being the world's most boring human being. But since I'm doing it live, you guys get to sit here with me, be nice and bored. And let's go in here, like I said before, let's drop the subtotal to level 4, go in our standard brush, and we'll turn on Ziad. And crank our Z intensity up a little bit. And we'll turn off our mask by features, and we'll just go through here and we'll kind of increase the contrast of some of these shapes so it doesn't look so soft. All right. A little bit better than he was originally. A little closer, and actually that subsurface scattering mask isn't really doing much for me. So we can go in here, turn off SSS, and then under our filters we can just go ahead and turn that off. 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 There you go. Get caught up here. Can you make a turntable movie in Substance, or do you bring it back into Zbrush? Oh, you know what? I don't know. I think there's plugins you can use to do like a turnaround in like iRay or the Substance viewport renderer. What I would do is do a turnaround like in V-Ray or something like that. Just a little bit more, but you can. Yeah, I wouldn't bring it back into ZBrush. Once you're textured in Substance, I would export that to any renderer. If you're in Substance Painter, I guess we can load that up. for example, oh, actually, you know what I'm going to have to do? Oh, hold on. Let's see. Let me go way back. Okay, here we go. Load this up real quick. Now, in contrast to Zbrush, Substance Painter is a very GPU heavy thing. So we go in here to Edit Mode, Settings. This is where you can go down here. You see you have GPU ray tracing, enable automatic UV wrapping, and then also this is going to use the iRay hardware, GeForce, and the CPU. It's got both, so it's going to use resources from both, and boy does it. So this is Substance Painter, and when you go in here, you can go to File, Export Textures, and you can say, under Configuration, you can export to any number of things. Redshift, if you want to go to Engine, Unity, or Unreal, or you can make your own configuration. In fact, this is covered in the Mechanical Skull Substance Painter over here. Or you know what, it might be actually under rendering. So in rendering, we do a bunch of iRay rendering, and then we also go into Marmoset and render it out. So you can export this to Marmoset. And now if you didn't necessarily want a shadow catcher, you wanted an actual plane, what you could do, go through here, and then you could even use Substance tiling in Marmoset natively. So you just bring it in a SBSAR and just kind of tile that. So this is rendering in Marmoset. And then at the very bottom here, you can actually export this to your Sketchfab. So if you go into, if you want to use Substance Painter, it'll export it straight to Sketchfab, and then you can go through here, and there it is. And then now we can load in your model here, and then there you go. So now you have your 3D model. Anybody, you can go in here and set up you can actually do a turntable in Sketchfab. That information's in there too. You just put a little bit of code in your in the web link, and that'll do that for you. So anyway, you can check out those models if you'd like. Back down here. Okay. Is your company working from home? How's it going? Yes, we're all working from home. I've been super duper busy, which again is good. You know, it keeps me busy. I still have a job. I'm very, very lucky. So I got that going for me, which is nice. Also keeps me indoors and making me wash my hands a lot, I guess. Hey James, there's another way to solidify a model without dynameshing. Yeah, we went through that a little bit earlier, but basically unify, what is it called? Remesh by union? I forget. Basically, we have this, which is a Polymesh 3D, and then this is also Polymesh 3D, and then this is Polymesh 3D. Now these are all separate objects, so if we go in here, and we smooth this out, you can be, okay, well, they're all separate. So you can go remesh by union right here. It's just running a Boolean. So if you had another object here that was, you could add these all separate subtools and then just go down here to like geometry, use your Boolean stuff to do this. And if you want more information on Booleans, check out my playlist on ZBrush 4 R8, old school, what's new. And this will take you through all the new Boolean functionality. It's also on my ArtStation page if it's a little bit easier to look at. There's more examples, images anyways, on ArtStation than there is on my YouTube channel, obviously. But anyway, we can go through here very quickly and do remesh by union. And now what that's going to do is sew this up. So these are all, they're all vert welded now here. But like we were saying before, you don't lose any detail if you do that. So instead of Dynamesh, as long as you have an airtight mesh and you want to go 3D print, remesh by union is a good option. We might be able to do some more Unreal stuff if I had more stuff to take into Unreal. How can I speak English so fast? You know, just like when you're doing likenesses, it's practice, practice, practice. Color scanning, I mean, increases and bumps and tiny skin dots and stuff. yeah, that would be, you could paint that like you say. Oh, when you do like this planar studies for practice and adjust your subject. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with doing that stuff. And in fact, like doing just sculpting and like just taking a picture and being like, hey, you know what? I can break down this human face based by the volumes and the planes. That's good practice. I mean, and that just frees you up to do any sculpting that you want on the fly. That's something I would need to practice more since I don't do a lot of character sculpting. I don't do a lot of anything. The more I talk about it, the more I'm like, what do I do? Not much. Not much. Is it worth getting Keyshot Bridge or better to use Substance Marmoset workflow? Depends on how much work you want to put in. For example, if I go out of solo mode here and we're like, okay, I want to render this, we can go to render, external render a keyshot. We just literally just hit a button and boom, I'm in keyshot. Now keyshot through Zbrush might have a little bit of a harder time without the full version. Sure, we'll download it. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get the latest version. So yeah, I'm in Keyshot right now, and I can start rendering. I tend to use it more as a product renderer than like, let me get some subsurface scattering going, but that's more of a me thing than it is a Keyshot thing. You know what? We're just gonna update my executables real quick. It's a good way to paint fabrics in Substance Painter. Should be the same as any other thing you do in Substance Painter. The other cool thing about this, so let's Control Alt, right click, and then we'll go down here. So instead of T800 metal, and actually let's go ahead and knock our viewport. Oops, I guess we can make this fit a little bit better, huh? There we go. So over here underneath our viewport settings, let's go down here, and I'm going to temporarily kill my shadow so we can just see a little bit better. So we go in here, or you can go in here to your substance source, and I'm probably going to have to log in. Let's wait for it to catch up. And it's not on a browser, so I have to go over here and go, hey, what is it? There we go. Okay, we're in Substance Source, and we want to look at some fabrics. Leather, fabric. And we like fabrics here. And some of the stuff you may have to kill the RGB information or the base color information. But some of this is probably nicely set up anyways. And let's grab a... And it'll come with fabrics too. You don't have to do this. But while we're in here, let's do some cool... If it ever uploads or loads. I think my internet was that bad. Okay, fine. You know what? Let's just grab this wool sweater blend. Downloading. Now it's ready. So we'll go through here, and then underneath our materials here, we should probably have a wool sweater blend. So I can just grab it and drag it right where I want that to show up. And then underneath the skull material, and go in here and we can scale this up or down. We can also use triplanar. Right now it's probably using UVs by default. Yeah, UV projection, you can change it to triplanar if your UVs are causing it to look not how you want. There we go. So now we have a nice fabric skull. And as far as like painting, if you're talking about like changing the color information, you know, this contains color, metal, height, roughness, and normal map, and sometimes under these basic parameters you can go through here and you can change like, okay, the wool color, you can change it to whatever you want. But if you just want it to be a, you know, a beige to start with, and then on top of this you can add a fill layer or just a what would that be called? Just a layer. And in this case we just want to change the color information. That's the only channel we have. And then we'll go ahead in here and say add a black mask, and then whatever color we want this. Let's say we want to paint it red. Wherever we paint on this mask, it'll go through and just update that color information. Or if you want it to just happen in a certain area, you can do a smart mask or a generator and say, I only want this to show up in my dirt areas, and then that way your color kind of shows up in the areas you want it to. Can a substance model be exported to Blender to render? Yeah, you can. I mean, as long as you have, well, yeah, it would just be texture information. You'd have to hook it up to the material graph and render it. But yeah, all things are just you have a model, you have UV's texture coordinates, so it tells you where the textures to go, and you have textures. And if you can put all those together, you can do anything. To paint a model for Photoshop Overpaint. Yeah, you know what we can do? We'll do some marketing stuff that'll do that. But if we don't get around to that, I think the most recent version of that is if we go in here to our live streams, our uploads, I guess. Oh, you know what? Playlists, and then live stream full episodes. In there we've done it a bunch, where you just basically do a bunch of composite stuff and take it in there. I think I have a creature one in there we did. Oh, the fastest way is just to, okay, finish, is just to hit the Z plugin, Zbrush to Photoshop, and that'll just throw it into Photoshop. There we go. Okay, I think we're good. So now, render, external render a key shot. Let's see if that works. Now this one, you can do GPU or CPU in KeyShot. Right now, I'll go ahead and drop my CPU usage down to like 88% while we're streaming and demoing. But you just want real quick, oh, come on, every time. Window, edit, preferences. Now it works. Yeah, so just very quickly you can hop in here to KeyShot and do whatever you want. Change this an environment. We got a color environment here. And we'll double click the skin. And if we switch the skin over to like a translucent, I have a little bit more control over that kind of stuff. Or you can also just go in here to material. Just drop a human skin in there. We might lose our poly paint, so let's go in here to the, material graph. And let's go in here to the texture map here, and we'll say upgrade to new mode. And also underneath here, let's say brightness up quite a bit. Contrast? No. Vertex color we want to keep, and then translucent. Surface and subsurface. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. And then specular. Something like this. I don't know. It's been a while. Let me see. Translucent. Let's also do this. Let's go in here to edit, add geometry, plane. And let's turn on scale. Let's go in here to our material for that. Let's go ahead and check that on, and then we'll say turn off visibility to camera, but we still want to go in here and say get a little bit more light in there, and then let's see, can I grab just individual pieces here? Oh, right. Because I would need to split these up before I came in. But then I could start, I think I can even set a pivot. You know what? I could do my my rendering in KeyShot real quick. Wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. But anyway, just a really quick, easy way to kind of do that. Oh, stretch. I struggle in dirtying up my fabrics. Oh man, that's the fun part in here. So instead of doing this fill layer, let's call this, let's make this dirty. And in fact, let's go in here and let's say add a fill. And then on here, let's add a filter. And on this filter, let's add a gradient. So on this fill layer here, what we're going to do is we're going to put in a, you know what, we're just going to do it on the base color for this fill. For this base color, we're going to put in a grunge. Just something kind of mottled and gross. You know what, let's do this. Let's do dirt. Let's see if there's anything grungy dirty. Yeah, dirt scratch. So basically what we're doing is we're, let's go ahead and kill this mask. So here's our here's our fill, here's our fill right here, and it's getting kind of a dirty look. So on this fill, and all it is just this grunge that we're going to go through, and you can change the tiling, and you can also change it to triplanar if you wanted to. Instead of, like we were talking about earlier, you could do a triplanar projection instead of UV, and then you're just going to get this kind of grungy look. And then on top of this, you can put a gradient, and this gradient is going to control color quantity. So if you wanted to do just like between light and dark, you could drop this down to 2, and then you'd have just 2 options, or you can bump it up. So basically whatever gray values these are assigned to, that's what you're going to have. So on this one we have black or white, so wherever it's black it's going to have this color, wherever it's white it's going to have this color. So we can go through here, and I did just keeping it simple, we could go, okay, I want kind of a darker brown and then kind of a lighter brown in those areas here. Again, just to kind of give it a little bit of breakup here, and then we can change the position to see, because now the dirt's a little less uniform. And even on top of all this, you could add, if you don't feel like, you know, once you have this and you're just like, okay, give me a black mask, and then on this black mask we'll drop in a generator, and then that generator we'll just put it where the AO is, basically dirt, and then you can go in here and do the dirt level. You can dial in that dirt, and then it's like, you know what, the color isn't exactly what I wanted. Just really quickly, just go in here and add another filter, and then you could go through here and do like a, what is it called? A hue saturation levels, and then you could go through here and you can change the hue a little bit more, or pump down that saturation. It looks a little too saturated, so we'll just dump that down. And then also you can make it a little darker, a little brighter, to get that exact look you want. And you can just keep stacking and stacking, and all you're really controlling is where this ends up on your model. So if you alt-click this, you'll see this is where your dirt ends up. And you can hit M, and then there's your dirty fabric. And right now we're just controlling it with dirt, but of course a dirt generator, but of course you can use all sorts of stuff. Hey, love you guys too. How's it done with XYZ maps? I can't find a video on your YouTube channel. I don't think I've made one with XYZ maps. No, I don't think I have. Do any tips for going directly from Zbrush to Marmoset? Yep, I got a whole video series on it. So over here, mechanical skull rendering. Well, yeah, the mechanical skull series goes through all that. I got a couple more, but that's the most recent one. Going directly from Zbrush to Marmoset, you would just export an FBX and then dump it into Marmoset, if that's what you mean. If you're not feeling like I don't need to bake anything out, you can take 20 million polygons into Marmoset if you want to. Cool, cool. Sorry if I missed something. I'm going a little bit faster here. No problem. Thanks for all the kind words, everybody. How to change the font size and the brushes pop up. Are you talking on Zbrush or Substance? I'm getting confused now. I guess we can go ahead and turn this off. Do you have curves in ZBrush Core? I don't think so. It's been a while since I've been in ZBrush Core. I do have a ZBrush Core. I haven't updated it yet, but here's the ZBrush Core playlist if you want to mess around with ZBrush Core. Okay, when I use ZBrush Core, I kind of feel like I'm using ZBrush with all my limbs tied behind my back. So it's difficult for me to make that transition because I've been using ZBrush for too long. How long did it take you to make a human anatomically automatically correct? I'm going to go through the Raf Grassetti tutorial, and man, I'm slow at it. It's just like anything else, practice. And I wouldn't even say this guy is overly anatomically correct. We just kind of had a little bit of fun with him. Go through here, render, turn that off. Fiber mesh to print, just thicken them up. Yeah, and that's basically, if you, I mean, anything you want to 3D print, you're just going to have to worry about how it's going to react. So in the case of this guy, that fiber mesh had to really be thickened up in order to, you know, get the result you want. Cool. Awesome. Alrighty, so we've got a guy going, and let's see how I want to take this home. So basically, okay, let's split all these things back out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Control-Shift, isolate just one polygroup here, do Control-Shift-A. Let's do this. Let's go down here. Again, we'll go all the way up, Subversion level 5. I think this will work. We'll go delete lower, isolate, Control-Shift-A, split hidden here. And we have all of our detail, right? Reconstruct. Yay, okay. Control-Shift-A, Alt-Tab. All right, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do this here. Control-Shift, and we'll also turn this off so I know where the hell I am. Control-Shift-A, split hidden. Split hidden. Split hidden. And here, Control-Shift-A, split hidden. And if I want to do right or left by themselves, let's go ahead and split that off. So now all through here, this one's already been done. So we'll just hit the down arrow key, and we'll go through and we'll reconstruct back. This makes it a lot easier if you want to do UVs later. All right, so we're all split back out. And we'll save it. And you know what? When I split things off, another thing I like to do, after it's done saving, is do a quick save. And then go into my quick save here, and we'll just load up my last quick save. Fake skin shader in ZBrush looks much better than me than in Keyshot. Yeah, that's a settings thing. In order for me to get a good result, I would actually have to do more than fiddle with some sliders for a minute. But it's really how much time you put into it. You can get really good results. But you know, same thing as if I was to take this in the V-Ray, I would have to. Yeah, maybe, I guess we could take this in the V-Ray real quick. Maybe. Let me see. What version of Maya do I have on here? I have my V-Rays tied to my Maya. So yeah, we got this going, and we can go through and we can export this. Let's go through. So we go through here, hit W, Alt Tap here. Let's turn off X symmetry. So doing like a previs here kind of going through and being like, okay, this is going to pop off here. Let's go ahead, and if we did want to do just a ZBrush render, okay, we got 2020. We could do that. I'm trying to avoid doing a lot of baking stuff. I wonder, and we could put that in the, okay, think. We could go into Marmoset with it really quick, bake things off, namespace. We could even animate it in Marmoset. Play around with the skin shader in there. I don't know, when it gets into production stuff, that's when things start slowing down, and we've only got 3 minutes left. Damn. All right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna really quickly go through here, and I'm gonna turn off all this skin stuff. And we're gonna go, oops, on this jaw here. Oh, you know what? We were supposed to do more hard surface modeling too. Man, what did I even do this morning? Ugh. Okay, so we can hit D for dynamic on that. And then for all these metal parts here, we can go in here and we could do, let's do metal 01, and let's go into our material here. And let's say, crank that diffuse a little bit, and then also under texture, let's load in a little bit. Let's load in a texture here that we can go into reflectivity and give us just a little pop of reflectivity, and then also, what am I looking for here? Reflection curve. Let me drop this down just bring it up just a little bit. So we have a little bit of metal in here, and then all of these pieces will just be metal, so we'll go into our MRGB, color, fill object, and then just through all this metal stuff. Say fill, 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 fill. Fill, just use your down arrow key. All right, so now on these ones here, let's unmask, fill object, and we'll also hit D for dynamic, and let's do crease level of 2, smooth selective of 3. Something like that. And let's go ahead and mush this around a little bit too. Now this is just a dynamic subdivision, so if we wanted to add more detail to that, we'd have to work a little bit harder. And then here, I think we're still dynamic, right? This one is a little bit of a heavier mesh. It's not a deal breaker or anything, but we could go in here. Ugh. Okay, let's go into clay brush here. Let's go into our, you know what, H polish. Let's go into our brush settings here. And let's say I want to auto mask by polygroups. So when I go through here and I can flatten this area out. Again, this one's a little bit heavier than I normally would do when I'm zero meshing, but it's okay. And I'll go through here and smooth out. Or you know what, let's isolate this, mask it, invert that mask. Let's drop our Z intensity down. Increase PG, increase a level of 2. I guess we did want to increase a level of 1. Or maybe 0, yeah. So anyway, we got metal here. So now we have an updated file. And you know what? I'm going to take, yeah, I guess I should have seen that coming. So instead of moving this out, let's move those teeth in. That's not too bad. Okay, I still have moved my polygroups on so you can move these teeth individually if we want, or mask my polygroups on, I should say. All right, so for the quick rendering, wait for it. We could go through here. Come on, come on. So we'll grab this one here, W, Alt tap wherever you want the pivot to go, and then we can just go ahead and split these things up and open. And same thing for this one. You could save, you know what, let's do that. Let's try it, I should say. So we're going to go through here, and it's just going to be a linear interpolation, so I don't know that animating would be real great, but you can go through here and you can do a layer, and we can make a new layer for this one. And while we're recording this, we could say, you know what, new layer, you're going to go like so. And then you can turn off that layer record. So now you can just, whoa, animate to 0 to 1. And again, it's a linear, it's not like it's rotating along a pivot. It's used more for like blend shape purposes, but at least that'll give you a little bit of control to go back. And on this side too, go ahead and make a new layer. Turn off X symmetry. And I don't really have my reference up, but I think it looks something like this. Or you know what, these I don't think were too separated. And not that it has to match the reference exactly. Do whatever you want. Whatever looks cool, dude. And then down here, God, I don't even know where that seam line is. There it is. It's so melded in there. Oh, you know what? Stupid. That one's recorded. This one's not. And then this one. And this is the kind of thing too where, yeah, if you wanted to do this nicely and rig it in Maya and render it in V-Ray or whatever, a little more production work, a little bit more control, but you know, you pay the price and you know, having to do a little bit more legwork. But you know, I'll leave that up to you. These look a little bit, let's go turn on record again. These look a little bit too removed. I don't want to cover up the face too much, but I want to kind of bring these in just a little bit more. Still recording on this one. There you go. So now I'm able to go through and use my layers to get my face back, and then we'll go ahead and turn on perspective. So now when we hit BPR, you know what, let's do this. Let's go document size. Let's turn off proportional. I guess you don't have to do that. You can do it like a 1920 by 1080 render or whatever, but I'm going to zoom out. And also, I guess all this other stuff we don't need. Right now. Wait for it, wait for it. Maya takes forever to shut down. What's up with that? Autodesk. Okay, yeah, so we drag this back out. And then you can change your focal angle here, but you can see here's the edge of my document now, and I can render a little bit bigger size for, you know, doing a little bit prettier renders. Anything else I need to, let's go ahead and let's do subdivision level 3 on this one. Do a quick BPR render. It's for a preview here, and this is where you can start dumping your render passes, or like we said before, you can do Zbrush to Photoshop and give that a shot. Send to Photoshop. Okay, we'll find it. Let's see. Adobe. There we go. Cool, let's see. Let me get caught up here. Yes, yes, yes. Yes. There we go. Now we're in Photoshop. If you had UVs on this already, is there a way to split and combine objects without losing your Vs? Yeah, yes. Just make sure in ZBrush you have, when you go in here to split and merge, split shouldn't, I'm not sure about split, but yeah, have UV, enable UVs and merge subtool. So just have that turned on. Okay, answer one stupid question about speed. How quickly should an artist make a character model? Fortnite level of detail, a couple of days, a week, a few weeks. Fortnite level of detail, 4 hours. Has my ever crashed on you? Every program I've ever used has crashed on me. So yes. I was just kidding about the Fortnite thing. It depends on, you know, it kind of depends on like how complex it is, how many base meshes you're starting on, how much information you have to begin with, and also how like Fortnite's nice and stylized, and you can get things done very quickly. Like you could conceivably do a Fortnite model in 4 hours, high res, no problem, or it could take you 2 weeks depending on the complexity and how much intricate stuff you need to do. But that's not to say like if you're just working on it and you're doing your portfolio stuff, like don't feel like you have to. Okay, I did this in 4 hours, and they're going to be so impressed. Nobody's going to be impressed by a 4 hour sculpt that looks bad. So spend 2 weeks on it and make it look really good. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so now we're in here. Okay. Oh boy. Usually what I'll do is I'll go through manually and grab all the information I need. This is using the plugin, so I'm going to have to kind of struggle my way through this here. So here's my base layer. Do we have a clown pass in here? Or, oh, you know what I probably should have done in here? Plugin. I need lights. I need polygroup ID. Polygroup ID? No, I need subtool ID. Create a pass based on the stored material. I don't think I'll need to do that. And also I need to make sure I went back in here and said material, turned on our wax preview again. I think it'll allow me to do this. Again, if this doesn't work, I'll just do it manually. It doesn't take that long. Strength. Okay. Back in ZBrush. So we turn on a few more options here. Now let's hit, actually, you know what? Let's back this off just a bit so I get a little more information here. Make sure this is what I want. Does that look about right? Oh, you know what? And I also need to go, I'll do that later. Okay, so now I'll give that another shot. Cool. Okay, I'm gonna send it all over. It's gonna render out all my passes here. Oh, is it doing a polygroup pass? It's doing poly. Oh, there it is. So that's the one. That's the render I was looking for. Because if I want to change any individual component, like the skin, I can go through and just very quickly grab that mask and do a lay of the levels on it. So now, oh, it's still going. What else? What else? What's new? What else have we got in here? We got some YouTube questions. Cool. You talk and sigh as though you're a vampire who's been doing Zbrush characters for all of human existence. A lot of these older videos, I mean, God, you gotta remember a lot of these videos go way back. So depending on what I was doing at the time, could certainly influence my excitement as I was recording. Yes, I do. Okay. All right. We got a lot more stuff going on here. But for this base layer here, we do have a geometry layer. So if I want to grab all of my skin, and this is all my shadow. So for example, this shadow here, let's go ahead and throw on a quick hue and saturation. And let's go through here and let's colorize that. And so we can go through and we can say, let's give it a little bit of a cooler tint there. And then over this, here's my subtool ID. And then I want to go through here and I'm going to hit W. And we'll go through and we'll just grab all my skin here. It's all my skin pieces. Actually, okay, I think that's right. And then we'll go down here, and on our base layer here, let's go ahead and throw in a curves. So now in this curves here, I can go through and I can really kind of I can punch up my skin a bit. And boy, those shadows are just gross. This is the kind of thing I would want to, do. You know what? I don't need those shadows on. Okay, back here near the curves. I want a little bit more contrast on the lower end, and then I kind of want to punch up on the higher end, really. And then over here, we have a front light. Let's drop that opacity down a little bit. Now, do these left lights have shadows turned on? Yeah, the shadow's on a separate layer, so that kind of works. I like that left light a little bit more. Let's grab that back left light, and on here, we'll go ahead and do a hue saturation. I'm going to warm this one up a little bit. So we'll go down here to Colorize, and we'll change that. It doesn't have to be that saturated. Just a little bit here. That's the back left light. I kind of prefer like a little bit of a, like more of a rim light, but I suppose that'll work. And then over here, let's go ahead and grab those metals. So here, and you could treat these metals all differently if you'd like. And then if we go back down to here, we'll do another curves. And this is just going to affect my metals here. Something like that. Top lights, depth. So here's your depth pass here. So we're going to need to throw that into our channels here. Control A, Control C. And go into channels here and we'll throw that into here. So now when I do a lens blur, we'll be able to do that. There's the mask for the full head. No anti-alias masked. And then if I do a Control A, Control Shift C, Control V, then we can go in here to filter, blur, lens blur, and then load up alpha 1. And then now when I click any area, so if we crank that radius up, You can see wherever we click, that's where the lens is going to focus. So you can kind of dictate. So normally you'd be like, okay, I want to focus right in here, and the rest of it can, do what it needs to do. But you can dial in where you want the eye to go, and then of course that radius is probably a little intense. So dial that back just a little bit. So now you have your lens blur, and then you got your render, and then you can go into do your little thumbnail and stuff like that. Export a proper displacement map for a model that's rendered in VR or Arnold. Ooh, boy. Off the top of my head, no, I can't do that. I'd have to go look that up. But, cool. All right, everybody. I'm going to head out. Thanks. And I don't know if I'll take it further than this. Maybe I'll do an offline video of just taking this into Maya and rendering in V-Ray and doing a quick animation for a GIF or something like that. But that'll do for now, as far as just doing a quick beauty render in Zbrush and all that good stuff. Cool. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you later.